Okay, today we're going to get to look into a building that we've never gotten in before. We're also going to go a little bit into the history of this type of institution. We've already spotted security enough times that I really don't want to be out in the open like this, but I noticed the door moving in the wind from far off and I had to check it out. Before the 1800s, the options for people with developmental disabilities were basically mental asylums, almshouses and jails, or life on the streets if they weren't lucky enough to have family capable of caring for them. Industrialization and advancements in science and medicine resulted in a society wealthy enough and well-informed enough to begin to question why more wasn't being done. Social reformers such as Dorothy Dix began to advocate for better treatment and services to all of society's disadvantaged people. By the mid-1800s, training schools for children with disabilities were established in Europe and the United States. Often a small farm colony on a large plot of undeveloped land, this was an enormous step forward. Capable patients were believed to benefit from both the physical farm work as well as the general sense of purpose the colony provided. In the United States, training schools opened in Germantown, Pennsylvania, Albany, New York, Columbus, Ohio, and Vineland, New Jersey. Before eventually evolving to meet the needs of a growing population, these places had a strong educational focus. Combining physical training to improve motor skills and basic academic instruction was a massive success. Classes would also include training to improve social skills. Around this time, the US government began to attempt to determine the number of people with intellectual deficiencies. Believed now to be flawed due to confusion between mental illness and mental disability, it appeared that the numbers were increasing dramatically by the decade. This would lead to more institutions being built and existing ones being made larger. Mirroring the state hospitals of the time, the initial success of these institutions would lead to their downfall. Hearing of the progress being made, more and more parents began seeking training school placement for their children. Ever-expanding campuses and growing patient numbers eventually led to a shift from education to custodial care. It became a situation where there was only enough staff and only enough resources for basic care. Education and training would become more and more sparse, and the farm colony plan was completely abandoned by this point. State hospitals abandoned treatment and state schools abandoned education in a desperate attempt to meet the basic needs for residents. These institutions became warehouses for human beings. Unfortunately, not much would change for these institutions, and society would eventually reject the idea of isolation in large institutions altogether. Today, most of these places are gone, and the few that remain operate on a massively smaller scale than they used to. In another 100 years, our current approach to these issues will be judged by our grandchildren, much like we are looking back and making judgments today. We should keep this in mind and try to leave a better history for them than the one we found. This has been Chris with 12 Foot Grave. Thanks for watching.